East Podcast, WATP.
Why don't you give a little background on Armie Hammer, who has had major starring roles in Hollywood, The Social Network. I don't even know his entire list of credits, but he was a rising star. And then bad things happened. Do you want to give people the background on this, Adam? Do you know it?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you that people don't already know, except he was caught being very aggressive and abusive to hundreds of women and became real viral for having a taste for cannibalism. And what's so amazing is that he loves to talk about it. He loves to fantasize about it. He's eaten raw animal flesh in, hunting, rituals. He's obsessed with it. He's written so much about it, but just like John and just like Opie and all the people that we love, he refuses to admit it in any way and thinks he can go on a kind of rehabilitation campaign to change his image without actually learning anything new or admitting to anything he's done. And we get to witness this on so many different platforms. It's just incredible. And it seems like the worse it goes, the more he likes it and the more he has to do it, because this is just sinking anything that was left of his potential career.
So he went on the Louis Theroux podcast, which I believe is a British podcaster, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went on there to, again, he's trying to rehabilitate his image because he was messaging with women about eating their ribs, like these fantasies he would have. He wants to brand them. Maybe he did brand women. I can't remember the details of all of this when it was coming out. Pretty heinous shit. And so Louis Theroux had some questions for Armie Hammer.
Did you cut the heart out of the animal and eat it while still warm?
No, you don't eat the whole heart. One of the traditions is you take a bite out of the heart, and you've got all your buddies around you. They're goading you on. It's sort of like a almost overly charged male rite of passage when you go hunting for your first time. Everyone that I know who went hunting for their first time had to do something similar.
So you did that?
Yeah. Not for the purpose of any cannibalism or any sexual gratification. No.
Well, that definitely wasn't the question. Sexual gratification. I hope we weren't jerking off on the deer afterwards. Holy shit.
No one mentioned that at all.
Yeah.
And so that is not a rite of passage or a tale as old as time. That is not something that everybody does hunting. And just the distinction he had to make, no, I didn't eat it. I just, took a bite from it, is something a cannibal would say.
Yeah, did you eat the heart while it was still warm? No,
I nibbled
a bite. Yeah. That's what eating is. So you didn't clean your plate. That's not the question here.
I'm a respectable gentleman. Come on.
Have you guys ever heard of such a thing before? Eating the heart of the animal that you kill? I've never heard of that. I'm not from a hunting family. But
Anthony Bourdain.
I grew up in a rural town where, like, a lot of kids, they missed the first day of hunting season. They didn't go to school that day. They went out hunting with their dad. I've never once heard this anecdote that, the heart was delicious.
And when he did that, he looked like Stuttering John's wife after she went down on his ass. See, now that's how you craft a joke, everyone. Flawless!
The sheer arrogance of him talking to us, like, how can you conflate these two things and bring them up now? Like, how rude of you. What does one have to do with the other? One is a time-tested hunting ritual. The other is a sexual thing that happens to turn me on.
Yeah, and I'm not on trial here. Actually, you are.
My answer isn't crazy. You asking the question, that's what's crazy.
Okay, while I was eating the heart, I did have a boner, but I was also thinking about other things at the time.
Yeah, and I wasn't jerking off. Who said I was jerking off? Stop looking at me like that.
All right, you want to set up your clip number 2 out here?
Well, this is the depths that people will go to quibble over the minutia of something said in order to pretend to have missed the entire point.
There's not a part of me that gets a thrill out of the idea of actually eating someone. Like, that's absurd. Like, that's not reality. There's a thing called cuteness aggression. Do you know what cuteness aggression is?
I think what you're going to say is it's like when you see a baby with chubby cheeks and you say, I just
want to
gobble you all up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or like, oh my God, you're so cute, I just want to bite you. Like that whole thing. That's what that is.
But
and
that
I think
isn't the same as inflicting pain. And this was also...
Well, now you're conflating two separate things because you ask me about this and then you say, well, that's not the same as inflicting pain.
Well, yeah, okay, no, that's fair.
Yeah, sometimes I want to eat a bitch, but that's totally different than when I beat the shit out of her during sex. They're two different things we're talking about.
He was so prepared to say that, too.
That's such a weird thing to equate that to like grabbing a little kid's cheek. That doesn't equate to anything that we're talking about with Armie Hammer.
Here's the thing, Carl. I don't have a foot fetish, right? So if somebody were to ask me to talk seriously about what people who have a foot fetish enjoy and are looking for, I wouldn't know what to say. And I certainly wouldn't correct someone when they're like, I think it's the arches. No, it's not the arches. It's like this. I'll tell you what it's like. Okay, you sound like someone who knows a lot about the topic. Tell me what it is. Oh, it's like cuteness aggression. Okay, so then you're a dangerous monster who can't control himself. Especially among children. Like, what the fuck is that kind of answer? You sound like someone very well-versed on this topic.
Mm-hmm. And if you haven't heard my segment I did on the Drew Lane show a month or two ago, Armie Hammer launched his new podcast. And again, even the podcast is an effort to rehabilitate his image and to get back into the mainstream and get back into Hollywood. And his second guest ever was his mom. And we find out that his mom is this crazy Jesus freak. Mm-hmm. To such an extent, it was actually a fascinating interview because he sits down and he goes, now, Mom, I want to have a conversation with you. I want to have a cordial conversation. They don't get along at all. I want to have a cordial conversation with you. If we could just refrain from talking about Jesus at every turn, I'd really appreciate it. And I'm like, what a weird way to start an interview. And then she turned everything into Jesus. I was like,
necessary.
Okay, now I see what's going on.
Can we now talk about Jesus or how breastfeeding went horribly wrong?
Right.
It was the smartest thing he did, though. His mother is such a devout evangelical Christian. She can't say a sentence without mentioning Jesus.
Right.
Her son doesn't exist. Anything he does is because of Jesus, good or bad. It's all wrapped up. They have no relationship. It almost shows you why his tastes have gone so over the edge because everything he does, his mom tells him that's the most wicked, evil thing you could ever do. So, of course, he feels some kind of relief by dancing around or maybe even engaging in the worst activity you could think of. So the fact that he doesn't admit it means he's dangerous because he would say it. He would say, yeah, it turns me on, the danger. I don't need to do it. I just like pushing the envelope. Instead, we get him, quibbling over these tiny little distinctions that mean nothing to anyone just looking in.
Yeah, it's almost like the Pete Townsend, I'm just doing research thing. It's just like, I don't think so. Not a lot of people do research on CP and need to look it up, but...
Well, your face is going to be
so.
red when his project finally comes out, by the way. The Pete Townsend project that he was doing all that research for. You'll see.
Yes. I don't think that'll be available on Netflix. I'm just guessing.
Probably not.
This is the Uncle Ernie spinoff where he gets his own musical.
Hey. The next clip, by the way, Adam, that you sent me, this guy, Louis Theroux, made a YouTube short. So he thought the same thing that you thought. This was a compelling part of the podcast. And it's about how Armie just wants to put this behind him. Why are we still talking about this?
Yeah.
It's not even news anymore.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say? I should.
No, I mean, I don't love the way the interview started, just to be perfectly honest. I'm not crazy about drudging up all of this stuff because for me, a lot of these issues have been resolved, whether it be legally or within myself. And I feel like a lot of those waters have settled. I think doing things like that stirs up the water again unnecessarily. It definitely wasn't my favorite beginning. I'm glad we moved past that and got to a place where we could have a civil, normal conversation. Like, that felt good. But drudging up all that stuff, like, I don't love it.
I hear you, and I sensed that during the chat. I think in the court of public opinion, the jury is still out.
But my thing now is, like, the court of public opinion, like, pick anything that the court of public opinion has an opinion on and There's a very good chance that they will not be fully informed. There's a very good chance they don't have the full story. And there's also a very good chance that they're probably wrong.
So he's got it all figured out.
All those crimes I was never convicted of.
Right.
I figured out myself how to deal with it.
I understand that you might have some questions or be confused, but this matter has been settled by myself, for myself, so why aren't we talking about getting me acting work?
Right.
This is like, Chris and I have talked about this. We have friends who are difficult to deal with and make your life more difficult
Trucker
as
Andy.
a result. Not Trucker Andy.
Oh, okay.
A different bass player. Different bass playing fool. But they do this thing where they go, well, you can't be mad at me because I'm mad at myself. And so it turns into this thing. It's just like, dude, why would you do something like that? It's like, dude, don't you know that I'm already mad at myself about it? Like, don't even tell me. It's like,
I already know that I fucked up.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about this?
yeah, it's like it's our fault for bringing it up. It's like, yeah, but the problem is there's a fucking pattern. It doesn't go away. It's the problem. It doesn't seem like Armie is ready to move on with this lifestyle.
No,
He's
you know
enjoying
how
it
I
too
know.
much.
You know how anybody can tell I'm not into cannibalism is because I rarely talk about it, text about it, nor do I know much about it.
You've never
That's a
been on the
tip-off.
creep off. You can't say that for Lucy Tightbox anymore.
That's true.
Well, I
there's-
don't want Adam to pass judgment on another artist, but let me ask Carl and Chris, what do you think has hurt Armie Hammer more? The idea that he's sexually violent, allegedly, and possibly a cannibalist, or the Lone Ranger movie that he did? Which one has hurt him more?
Well, I haven't seen either thing, so
Well, I saw one of them, and I feel like the cannibalism's not so bad.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Good to know.
I am
Well, you're
hungry
right
for
in
ribs.
insinuating that if the Lone Ranger went better, he wouldn't have to deal with this as much.
Probably
Yeah, if Johnny
true.
Depp didn't play an Indian, yes, absolutely.
All right, so this show that we're watching, Louis Theroux Podcast, is exclusively on Spotify, which is a little bit more difficult to grab. But I have some audio clips coming up, and this is your next clip, Adam, that you sent me, where he explains he's not here to advocate for himself.
My journey is not explaining myself. My journey is not advocating for myself. That's just not where I'm at. I mean, I get that on things like this, that stuff needs to come up, but I'm just very happy to report that that's not a part of my life anymore.
I hear you. It's tough because I get that this isn't a therapeutic space, and you don't owe me accountability, certainly not in the sense of your personal growth, but nevertheless, anytime you do an interview, I think with anyone who it takes on the burden of attempting to address the narrative as it exists in the public space now, this is what you will be going through.
Yeah, and I get it.
So he's not there to advocate for himself?
Yeah, that's why you start a podcast and then go on any podcast that'll have
Right.
you.
Yeah, it sounds like just the opposite of that. But if you say those words, then I guess I can't argue with you because it's not about your actions.
And
about
when
what
you
say you're
cut
doing.
someone off who's speaking very, very slowly with, I get it. It sounds like you don't get it.
Yeah.
Sounds like you don't like hearing it at all.
Yeah, I want to get past it.
Well, this is
It's
a great
incredible. At
clip.
some point, he cites a statistic where he says, women statistically enjoy the thrill of being raped. I don't have the source right now, but you can find it. I think you'd
I
wanna
mentioned the
have a
phrase
fucking
CNC. It stands for consensual non-consent, and it's the enacting of a scenario in which one, in a sense, role plays a sexual assault, acts it out for fantasy purposes. So it's a safe form of sex in which you simulate rape,
Correct.
but obviously,
Which, by the way, is a very common fantasy. You know, I mean, I think that it doesn't get spoken about enough, but I think I read a stat somewhere where it said something, it's over 1/3 of women have had a fantasy similar to that. And so finding a safe way to do that, where you can find a willing and safe partner to do this with, to enact your fantasies, I mean, this is not anything unusual, you know?
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere that like a bunch of chicks are into this thing that I'm into.
I was talking with my buddy.
So that seems I'm probably okay, right?
Where was it? I was reading about Jews love anti-Semitism. Where was that? Like 1/3 of them, it said. Anyway,
Half of them crawl into the oven without even being coerced. It's
They
crazy.
like it. They enjoy
They
it.
wanted it there.
It's warm.
Cold outside.
Well, I'm probably on some list now, but I did Google how many women have a rape fantasy, and it says between 31 and 57%, but that is just Google. So AI seems to think that women really want this.
All right. Well, Armie Hammer, get Google out next time. Yeah.
You got a phone, don't you?
That actually helped Armie Hammer, so he could have said 51%. It would have been more compelling. And then the last clip that you have that you sent me, this is just a crazy thing for him to say.
You kind of leveraged your fame and your charisma to slightly coax people out of their comfort zone, and they were cocooned in a feeling of, okay, I might one day be Mrs. Hammer, right? Or this is going somewhere. He's serious about me, and they ended up feeling violated. Does that sound like a plausible scenario?
Does it sound plausible? Sure.
Do you think that's what happened?
I think it's very hard to put yourself in any situation and say, this is what I think happened, and really encapsulate the entire situation. Are you entitled to the opinion? Absolutely. Are there portions of that might be right? Absolutely. Is there more to the story than that? There could be. It's all up for interpretation. And I think that people are allowed to have whatever opinion they want.
He could be a
What
politician.
even is a cannibal? What is it?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
We call it the C word in my home. I don't appreciate that kind of language. What a crazy thing to say. Could I be the worst person to ever exist? I mean, if you want to think that, you can. It's like, no, I'm asking you. You tell me. Don't just say like anyone could think whatever the fuck they want. Like, tell me what you think is the answer. What's the truth here? People might think I'm a cannibal and a rapist. Yeah,
Armie Hammer is
right.
Armie Hammer's the boss from Kids in the Hall Brain Candy, Don. He's like, well, would you agree that Paris is the capital of France? Yeah, great. Now we're back in agreement.
Right, yeah. It doesn't add to anything that we were talking about previously.
He's so comfortable talking about other people's depraved fantasies and how okay that is, but just refuses to admit his own. If this is his fantasy, I'm led to believe that there are millions of people out there that share it, and that there is actually a space where people can fantasize without necessarily practicing, you know, like people who want to be puppies or vampires or whatever it is. Like, we can cosplay, we can pretend if it turns us on, you know, we can play, meter maid person driving the car without actually going to get jobs, you know, in the government and working civil service. We can just play this stuff out, but he is unwilling to admit it. So it makes him seem like he has something to hide, and he's shitting on all those people that might actually have strange fetishes that would like to be included into this world.
Interesting. So that was from the Louis Theroux podcast he did recently. Well, he just did a new episode of his podcast, and it made news. TMZ picked up on this. And he had this guest on, Danny Drews, who's an actor, producer, mental health coach, suffered through addiction and recovery.
I listened to this one.
Yeah. And he tells this tale about, what if I just played for the other team? Maybe that would fix all my problems. You know, it's these pesky women who are releasing my text messages and saying that they don't want to be branded with my initials. They're a real problem, real pain in my ass. What if I played for the other team? So I played these clips when I was on Drew Lane's show yesterday. You can find that on their YouTube channel, Drew Lane Podcast. And I want to play them again because I'm interested in what your guys' takes is, especially after the context of what we just heard with this other interview that didn't seem to go so well as far as what he's trying to accomplish with rehabilitating his image.
I tried hooking up with a dude one time, and it was hilarious because I was like, you know what, like, women are the worst. Like, gay dudes seem to have it so easy. Like, so easy. I'm at a restaurant, my phone blows up, and it's like Grindr, and like someone else is like, I'm at the same restaurant, do you want a blowjob in the bathroom? And you're like, hey guys, I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and then you get up and you go to the bathroom,
that.
you get a blowjob, and you come back and you're like, what was that? They're like, I don't know, some guy just sucked my dick. It's like,
Yeah.
who? It's like, oh, I don't know, I didn't get his name. Anyway, what'd you order?
Yeah, totally.
Now, my thought is, if I need to nut that bag and just jerk off in the bathroom, I don't need a guy's mouth on my penis. But I'm a straight man, so that's how I think. What's going on here? Adam, do you have any analysis of this?
Yeah, I think he's so wrapped up in his own ego his own attractiveness and sense of self-worth that he's doing what Kevin Spacey did, which is, I will distract from all of these horrible things I've been accused of by announcing to the gay community that I can also fuck them now. And that's going to be such big news. We're so excited that he's, dabbling in our team that we'll ignore what he's actually done and being accused of and how he's made people feel, because that's some bullshit right there. That's just some bullshit. Everything he said, I'm just going to have to assume that's not how that goes at all. I've never dabbled in foot fetish because it doesn't interest me, and I'm not going to explore it for my own. Come on, man. Come on.
Christian, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he had that really specific example. So, yes, I do believe that he's at least considered dabbling like that. And Carl, you asked the question, why wouldn't I just jerk off? Because then you don't get to question your sexuality for the rest of your life. Was it gay because I had a guy blow me? And the answer is yes, it is. But I couldn't agree more with Adam. And in fact, I was starting to notice the similarity to Kevin Spacey saying, I am a gay American. And so he's saying, like, I'm not a cannibalistic American. What if I'm gay? Is that okay? He's like putting his toe, speaking of foot fetish, he's putting his toe in the water. He's like, maybe? How do we feel about this?
And asking these communities for help, being like, can you help me out here? Because I don't know what to do. I need some allies really fast.
I'm just a poor little minority. You guys are picking on the poor little minority over here who grew up in the Hammer family and starred in all these blockbuster movies.
And Man from Uncle.
He talks about doing a lot of drugs and having he blames everything he's ever done that people don't like on being fucked up. Mm-hmm. He can't make his gay story like that. He can't make it something believable, like we were, and then this person. No, it has to be this sober, deliberate decision. I signed up, made a profile for, answered questions, talked to people, all not knowing anything about it or whether I would even like it. Could you imagine going that distance for like a meal you don't know you would like? You wouldn't even order it.
Right. So it goes further than that.
But, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a try.
Yeah,
like maybe this actually works for me. Let's give it a try. And I remember I met this dude, handsome, French, the whole thing.
Sure, the whole thing.
I was like, okay, this could work. Let's try this. I remember I started making out with him, and I just remember being like, God, beards. Like, I get why women like it when you shave. Like, this thing is fucking rough. Like, how do I get in there?
Totally.
And I remember I put my arms around him and I was like, oh my God, and these shoulders are so wide. He's so big. Like, he's almost my height. Like, this is so strange. And it did physically for me, absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Like, it didn't, like, not even a twitch.
Yeah.
What's so odd about this to me is I don't need to experiment with that to know that I wouldn't enjoy it. Yeah. It's never crossed my mind that I'm like, man, maybe it would be super hot if me and a guy started making out. It's like, as a straight guy, that's not going to work.
Right. What did you think was going to happen?
So this seems so far-fetched to me that it'd be like, I decided, like, why not make out with this hot French guy? First off, what makes him hot? That's my first question.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's French. And we're supposed to believe that. It's such a weird detail that sounds like bullshit that he added in there. French. Oh, yeah. The handsome Frenchman. Okay.
Yeah, so you're not buying this story, Adam?
No, none of it.
So Armie Hammer might not have been into that experience, but as he was talking about it, I came. So I don't know what that means.
All right. Well, I don't know what that means either, Christian. Are you in trouble for something that we should know about?
I might be.
Okay, shit. This is the last clip I have on here because this is where I think he was doing this for attention. Mm-hmm. I think part of this is get some headlines for his podcast. Whoa, what's Armie Hammer talking about? Gay experiences? Oh, I got to tune into this.
Well, if I may, real quick,
Please.
Just this entire interview with Danny, what's her lips?
Drew's, yeah.
Trying to outdo each other. Mm-hmm. So when you say attention,
she's insufferable.
Oh, yeah. And he's not going to be outdone. So
she's one of these bitches who she's been in all the rehabs and everyone has to listen to her and she knows everything about life. And it's like, shut up.
Oh,
shut up.
Yeah. And she's a self-help coach or whatever the fuck. Yeah, of course she is.
Yep.
And yet she's wearing a bathrobe in public.
Just like a politician or just like somebody that's on trial, they know every second they're not talking about cannibalism is a win for Armie. So he'd rather they talk about this than anything else, because this is actually, he's so low, this is winning for him right now.
It's another win for the Hammer.
Good point.
All right, so this is the last clip, and this is where I started to think like, oh, this is bullshit.
And then I remember like we were like making out and it was kind of like getting hotter and heavier, but I was like going through the motions and like not feeling anything.
Yeah.
And then he like reached for my dick and I was like, you're not going to touch my flaccid penis. Like this is not going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. And I was like, you know what? I got to stop us here. And he's like, no. And I was like, yeah.
This is like no. I mean, women are beautiful, so like whatever. But like, if I never slept with another woman again, or I slept with 20, it makes no difference to me.
Fair enough.
That's what I found so annoying about Danny is Armie Hammer's talking about a guy reaching for his cock and what's he gonna do, and she's just like, yeah. Anyway, so about me again. Like, oh, that's not the point of this conversation at all. Actually,
There's only one word of his story I don't believe, and that word is flaccid.
that makes sense. The point I made on Drew's show yesterday when we talked about this is if you're going to have a gay experience, I have no experience with this, but I would assume the making out portion is really fucking weird and you'd want to get right to the penises and mouths or in a hand or something portion of it. That would be the thing that, if you want to get off. You're not falling in love, right? I
hope not.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like you just want to have you want to go on a few dates first.
Yeah, that could ruin everything.
What's been proven is that Armie has no regard or respect for any of the women that he's dated or had relationships with. I'm supposed to believe that the feelings he cared about were the French gay man he was not attracted to. That's where suddenly he's showing some restraint.
Right.
And I must excuse myself. This is not for me. Because, he cared so much about his feelings.
So I guess to sum up Adam's thoughts about this whole thing, it's
Bullshit.
okay.
Yeah. Just admit you like cannibalism and move on. Maybe you'll have a career, and maybe some other people will come out of the closet with you.
You want
Delicious.
you want to eat an attractive girl. I don't, but whatever. You haven't done it yet, right? You haven't eaten any chick's heart yet? Just the deer you
No,
shot?
I didn't eat it. I took a bite of it in a ceremony.
bite.
To show I
Yes.
was a man.
And it had been on ice for hours. It was chilled. It wasn't hot. That'd be weird.
Who are these podcasts?